executives made up of ordinary young workers, fast food workers, cinema workers, security, and so on, who are just like the rest of the population, who are full of misgivings or misunderstandings around what's happening in our society. Everyone's concerned about crime. Everyone who's been a victim of crime is concerned about what should or could be done about it, what's the useful way forward, but I think what they know and what we know here is that what we're doing today is not working. What we're doing today has not worked. What we're doing today will never work in the future. And I'll repeat one little comment that everyone's probably heard before. It's by Einstein, very clever man. And I hope I get it right. But he said something to the effect of that the essence of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. That is so true. That is true about what we're doing here. I want to deal with an aspect of it that hasn't been covered so much, although it's been touched on by many. And that is the class bias in the system that we have. I acknowledge completely the racist bias that exists, and it exists in actually an exaggerated form because the racist bias results in a higher proportion of people being imprisoned from Maori than even occurs in the United States. Percentage-wise, not an absolute percentage because they incarcerate a whole lot more people in total than we do, but in terms of the racist bias, it's actually greater in this country than it is in the United States. That is the nature of the system that we have. I acknowledge that. But I also want to raise the fact that we have a system in which crimes committed against working people day in and day out are never punished. The fast food employers in this country steal breaks off workers, 15-minute paid breaks every day by the thousand and never get held to account to it because it's not considered a real crime. We organise a picket outside a fast food joint and we've got 50 coppers pushing us back and stopping us exercising our lawful right to try to discourage people entering the fast food joint and buying their food on that day. We get 50 coppers down there within about 5 minutes, but these people steal off workers day in and day out and are never held accountable by the system that writes these laws in terms of what we're seeing today. I also want to raise one other thing. There's $1 billion a year being taken out of working class communities by the state. It's been taken off them. It's happening every year. You know how it was done? It was done by the WINS regime of terror that was imposed on people accessing benefits. We had last week, I read a couple of weeks ago, a coroner's report about the death of a woman committed suicide, and the coroner reported that because this person had been falsely accused of theft, being falsely accused, was being cut off and threatened with prosecution, but it was a false accusation, that the manager of the WINS had been operating on a target, an incentivized target to reduce the number of beneficiaries, not by any objective required, just an incentivized target to reduce them, absolutely. That the worker asked the WIN manager, the worker who was told to write the letter to this woman who knew she was fragile, asked the manager, can I take this out? Can I take the letter to deliver to this woman? The manager said no, he could not deliver it by hand. The woman received the letter and killed herself as a consequence. Paula Bennett is a murderer in this case. Paula Bennett is the minister responsible for this case. But Paula Bennett has built this culture of maintaining, she didn't start it, has maintained this culture inside this organisation that is actually killing people, driving them to suicide, and again no one is being held accountable. I disagree with most liberals who write about the crime issue. I don't think crime's caused by being poor. No, that's not the cause of poverty. That's not the cause of crime. What causes crime is a breakdown in human solidarity. What causes crime is when we start treating each other as non-human in some aspect. It's when we start looking at someone else as a competitor that we need to drive down or beat down or hold our foot on their head in order to get ahead. This culture, these value systems are developed by a capitalist type of society. A society that lords those who have accumulated wealth, that lords however they accumulate it, that lords the billionaire classes who have got rich through theft. We look at the Trump cabinet today, we look at them, the billionaire self-made people who are destroying the planet, destroying labour rights, destroying the ecology, and their value systems, racist and misogynist and anti-immigrant and all the rest of it. Their value system is the value system that they try to impose on all of us, and we end up, and crime as a consequence, when our solidarity breaks down, when our humanity breaks down, when our sense of community starts to break down. And the road forward is to create a new type of society, not based on competition, not based on the exaltation of wealth, but based on cooperation. And you can see a bit of it in some societies. And I'll tell you a little story. I went to Venezuela, and they're under attack from the Americans. They're trying to make a little revolution. And I went to one of the poorest communities in Caracas, on a hillside. Tens of thousands of shanty towns, just a shanty town. Tens of thousands of people. And the community wanted to rid their community of crime. It was riddled with crime, with gangsterism, with drug pushers and so on. In order to do that, the first thing they had to do was remove the police from their community, which they did. In order to remove the police from their community, they actually laid siege to the police station over a 48-hour period. And some people were hurt as a consequence. But anyway, the police were removed, was the first step. Then they could deal with the assholes within their own community. That wasn't that hard to do. Because the assholes within their community had been preying on their community, were being protected by the cops, as so often happens in the world. And every time there's a revolution in the country, you'll be told. I know people who went to Nicaragua shortly after the 1979 revolution there, and they said that Managua was the most peaceful place on earth because human solidarity was being demonstrated, human solidarity was being conquered, and people weren't treating each other as an enemy, but as a colleague and a comrade and a fighter for a new world. And that's what we need to do today, and that begins with the prisoners, and that's the wonderful thing that we're trying to do, and such a wonderful occasion to be here with you all. Kia ora.